The talk. I am been a couple of days. I did a video, and a couple of them, and it just kind of was scratching against the microphone. So try to do this again. Got a different view here. We're looking at backyard here. I just wanted to pick up where I left off because I was in Virginia, and I think I mentioned how my marriage wasn't doing that well, and I was running across some different ideas that were different than what I believed before, with some of my more liberal point of views. So I ended up being a single father. I was divorced. I moved to East Texas to a small town there. And instead of teaching like short courses like I used to do in Virginia, where it was, 2 weeks at a time and things like that, this was more like a college setting. It was, the students actually got degrees from the Texas A&M University in industrial engineering, or master's degree. While I was there was a guy who was well, sort of like the Georgia captain, only this guy's civilian. He was a fundamentalist Christian, and being a Catholic, we would talk about some of the difference in some ideas, and we got off into the Bible, creation, how it was done, and evolution and so forth. And you know, Catholics are sort of like, unfortunately, we tend to know that something's in the Bible somewhere, but we're not really good at exactly where, the exact chapter and verse. That's I'm getting better at that, but at the time I was nowhere near where I am now. So he's telling me that evolution, there's racism behind the theory of evolution. I'm like, okay, yeah, right, But then I come to find out, like if you look at Charles Darwin's version of evolution, here's the name of it, the title of his book. It's like On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection or the Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. Preservation of favorite races. I'm like, wow. He turned me on to David Barton, who's got all kinds of books from the founding fathers and things, and so I could go off in a whole nother direction with that. But here is this guy, this white dude that I would have thought was a racist himself, with that Texas drawl that he had. He just like what you would expect. Like, okay, here's a picture of a racist. Boom, all right, take a picture of him, and listen to the way he sounds. But it come to find out that he's telling me stuff about the origins of the racism, that this evolution, the way it came through from Darwin, basically says that, you go from your apes to your Neanderthals to your black people to your, and you eventually get to white folks, the top. And the idea is, if you get rid of all these other folks so that they don't intermingle and have babies with these inferior folks, then you're going to end up with this some kind of superior race. And I'm like, wow, okay. So I learned that from him. Well, moving forward, later on in my career there at that school, I went off to work on a PhD in industrial engineering. Unfortunately, I didn't finish, but anyway, I did all the coursework and whatever. But lots of math and things. And what was really crazy is, here I am at the school and dealing with a bunch of things that are hurting my brain, and I'm like, unwind. And I know this will sound really crazy. To unwind, I used to watch C-SPAN. I know that's very strange, but that's what I used to do, because it was just totally something off in a different direction, not thinking about my numbers. And well, it just so happened that at the time that I was at school in Fayetteville, Arkansas, the Arkansas Razorbacks had a really good basketball team. They ended up actually like number two in the nation part of the time, and the channel that they were on was this channel that this fool that I thought Rush Limbaugh, he'd be on. I didn't know who Rush Limbaugh was, and quite frankly, didn't really care. I just would flip the channel to something else when I would be riding around at lunchtime, when he was on. But at night, I'd put it back on the Razorback basketball. Well, come around to like October time frame of that year, after, so the Gulf War and stuff had been going on earlier. So we come around to, October, September, October that year, the Clarence Thomas hearings were on C-SPAN. So I'm watching that, camera's just right there, no commentary, just camera. And so I'm listening to what they have to say, and then I've checked the news. I go, well, what is, Bernard Shaw, or Tom Brokaw, or, some of these people that are heroes of watching the news during the Gulf War. What do they have to say about these hearings? And I'm like, whoa, hold tight. What they were saying did not match what I saw. And remember earlier I talked about how do you know what you know? You know it either because through reasoning, personal experience, or you have an authority. Well, the authority, like the CNN, ABC, NBC, although the authority was not telling me what I saw with personal experience with the camera just sitting there, with nobody saying anything but a camera. And I'm like, okay, this kind of just stuck with me a little bit. And I'm like, but this Rush Limbaugh guy, when I would flip to him in the day, or, because, listening to that same channel dealing with sports. So it'd be on that channel and I hear this Rush Limbaugh person, he would be talking about what I saw. So I'm, who is this guy? So he would be talking something about nuking liberals with some sort of neutron bomb, fighting with half his brain tied behind his back, very braggadocious, blowhard. And like, but he was absolutely correct in stuff that I was watching. I would hear what he said. And like that matched what I saw. So here's another little chink in some of the things so, I'm hearing someone that later on, because I, again, didn't know who Limbaugh was, later on heard that he's a racist and you're not supposed to listen to him, and he's a conservative, so this is a conservative that's telling what appeared to be the truth, and then those that were supposedly the authorities telling me what really is the truth were not telling it. They were saying something that didn't match. Then my mind went back and I remembered that 60 Minutes did this program that they got caught for. They were talking about, and they brought down the Ford Pinto. The Pinto was, they said that where the gas can was within the Pinto, you barely touched the rear end and it would cause a fiery crash. And, Mother Jones came out with an article saying hundreds of people were dying in these fire crashes. And by the time CBS got to it, it was thousands of people were dying. And they basically, caused a redesign of that vehicle and a bunch of other stuff. But that whole thing, there's even a website talks about how much of a myth it was, that the way that they pulled off the video for 60 Minutes was totally fallacious. They had 10 Pintos that they smashed from behind and none of them blew up. One of them, they had one more to go, the 10th one. So the 9 went, nothing happened. So what they did is they took that 10th one, they had a way to remotely ignite the gas tank. They had a big car slam into it at a much higher rate of speed than barely tapping it, what they were kind of trying to say would cause it to blow up. And then at that, if you watch the full speed, you see that the Pinto went flying, 30 some yards. And you're like, wait a minute, that's not a tap. So they slowed down the footage so it was slow motion So what they showed on 60 Minutes looked like a tap, and then boom. So, all these things are starting to like, wait a minute, our media, that's it for the day's thoughts of a king. See you next time.